Now let me introduce Dr. Craig Zelizer, the alumnus that is known by 25,023. 25. It was 23 up to yesterday. I checked yesterday when I prepared the remarks. Members of the Peace and Collaborative Development Network, many of which are in this room. Many students at Georgetown University, where he is the Associate Director of the Master in Conflict Resolution within the Department of Government. For us today, is the Alumnus of the Year. Welcome, Fred.
Thank you, Dean Bartoli and ICAR faculty, students, and alumni. Just a couple of quick comments before I start. It's interesting that two of the speakers were talking about new technology and new media in terms of building communities around peace building. I think that's where one of the trends are going. Since becoming part of SCAR, or ICAR back when I started in 1995, a long time ago for many of you, I feel honored to be part of this incredibly inspiring community of peacemakers from all over the world, and I really mean that. I also feel honored to be recognized as the Alumnus of the Year, considering the high-quality work that many of my colleagues are doing that I studied with in alum from other year. It's truly inspiring. One of the burning questions that's occupied me for the past 20 years, or even pre-bachelor's, is can you make a living and change the world, or change the world and make a living? And that's one of the central questions, and I have lots of intellectual questions, but that's a real practical question, is can you be a peacemaker and a conflict resolution person and pay the bills? I start off with this question again, reflecting back to my early days and back when I started telling my parents, oh, I'm interested in this conflict thing, and they kind of looked at me like, what in the world is that? So I'd like for the parents and family and friends in this room to also acknowledge you for the bravery, not just the students in choosing to complete degrees in this, but the friends, to acknowledge you in respecting and supporting the choices of people in this room. The reaction of parents might have been when your children said they wanted to study peace building, great. All we need is another unemployed artist or peace builder. For friends, it might have been wonderful, but what in the world is that? For colleagues, it might have been peace is great, but who's going to pay for it? And then if we think about ranking professions, where does peacemaker fall on the scale of professions of, not that it's not incredibly valuable, because the world needs many peacemakers, but if you think artist, actor, peacemaker, waiter, Starbucks employee, where does the peacemaker fall somewhere in there? Again, not in terms of status, but in terms of security. I'm not trying to say this to raise concerns and make you worry about the future, but I'd like you to think a few moments back to when you decided to pursue a certificate, a bachelor's degree, a doctoral degree in this field. What led you to decide to do this? Was it the inspiration to want to make a positive difference in the world? Was it something you saw in your own communities or families? Was it desire to make a lot of money? Maybe somebody in this room, probably not. Or was it just pure intuition? As someone who's been in the field for more than 20 years, I would like to say that you're actually on the cusp of a very good time. So back when I started at ICAR, even 3 days before I came to ICAR, the field of conflict resolution and peace building was really an unknown commodity. And I do have to say now that you're entering into a field that's becoming somewhat established. I don't want to say it's established, but there's a trajectory of career paths, there's places you can get jobs, there's job titles that if you look around, say peacemaker, conflict resolution analysis, conflict prevention officer, change management expert. 20 years ago, those jobs did not exist. So I think you can take a lot of confidence that there is a field that you're entering that has an infrastructure that's developing, but it's also new enough that you can help influence and build the infrastructure. A couple of things, there was a recent study that was done by the Alliance for Peace Building and the Koch Institute at San Diego where they talked about conflict analysis and peace building. They came up with 3 ways to define the field, which may or may not be helpful for you as you think about your postgraduate plans. The first thing is a profession. As I talked about now, you can have a profession in conflict resolution and pursue a career, a very successful career in all sorts of enterprises. The second thing, it's a sector, so it's not just a profession. There's a wide range of organizations in the US and around the world that are engaging in conflict resolution work, from the federal government to nonprofit organizations to media to academia. The third thing, which I think is the most important for everyone in this room, is a lens. So the thing that I like to tell my students, and this is not to get you depressed now that you're graduating, is that most people who study a degree in conflict resolution are never going to have the job conflict in their, conflict will not be in your job title. It doesn't mean that your skills are not incredibly valued and needed. The trick is, how do you take these skills, knowledge, and experience and integrate them into all the other sectors in the world that Heidi was talking about to make a difference? Whether it's development in conflict, environment in conflict, new media in conflict, but really thinking about how do you take this lens of knowledge, experience, and skills to help transform complex situations. Now, having talked a little bit about the infrastructure, I just want to quickly go over a few recommendations just because I do a lot of research in career mentoring. To me, one of the most important things probably that led you to pursue a degree in this is having a burning question to motivate you. I have lots of burning questions, and I hope that coming to ICAR, you had a burning question, it's only gotten stronger. And when I started at ICAR, I really hoped I'd have a lot more practice, skills, and experience, and I did get all those things doing the doctoral degree, but really what I learned how to do is ask better questions. And so I'm hoping all of you are coming out with at least one central burning question that's going to help guide your career for the next 20, 30, or 40 years. And I don't want to tell you what it is, but it's something that will sustain you in the difficult times. The second thing, as everyone's been talking about, is build on your ICAR community and all the other communities you're part of. The colleagues you're sitting in the room with today are the ones who are going to help you get jobs, or you might hire them in the future. Take part in the online networks, whether it's Interactive of Info or the Peace and Collaborative Development Network. The third thing is to make sure to take care of yourselves. And I say this because many of us, including myself, suffer from Save the World syndrome. Nothing wrong with wanting to make a difference in the world, but it's very, very, very easy to burn out or put yourself in situations where you can do harm to yourself or others. The fourth thing is to be a salesperson. So a lot of people are still going to be like, what in the world is conflict analysis and resolution? And it's your job to help them understand how the skills and experience you have could be of benefit to their organization, institution, or problem. People are not going to often come to you and say, tell me what it's about. You need to speak the language that's going to help them. The fifth thing is say no. Sometimes the best opportunity is actually the worst opportunity. So think about what is your personal ethics, and there's plenty of times where I thought something I really wanted to pursue, a scholarship, a job, a consulting opportunity, and in my heart I know I had to say no because it didn't fit up with the moral ethics that I at least hope to follow to some degree. The sixth thing is have a sense of humor. And again, I really mean this, that sometimes, particularly if you're working in challenging environments, it can be very stressful. And I want to tell a quick joke. I did my dissertation research for ICAR in Bosnia and Herzegovina, very inspiring place that suffered a traumatic war. And I've been around the world working in conflict resolution, peace building, and the black humor that I encounter in conflict situations used to shock me. But I have to say, the more and more I encountered it, and my wife is also an ICAR alum from Colombia, from Bogota, they have a very black sense of humor, but that humor helps people survive and cope. And so there's a quote, back in the worst days of the war in Sarajevo, there was this crazy individual who decided to organize an international film festival. His name was Mirsad Kuribatra. And they screened about 100 films over the course of 20 days. They had 20,000 people come, and this is on any given day when thousands of shells were falling into the city. And a reporter asked him, how in the world can you organize a film festival in the middle of a war? And his response is, how can you have a war in the middle of our film festival? So I think having a sense of humor and not taking ourselves too seriously, even in life and death situations, is essential. The last thing I'd like to say is think big but act local or locally. Often the problems that we're all confronted with are incredibly challenging and dynamic, and they're hard to solve in one day, 1 week, 1 year, 50 years. But it's important to keep the big picture in mind, but do things step by step. I recently joined the board of an organization called Masterpiece, which I just wanted to put a plug in, which to me is somebody who's thinking globally, and they're actually trying to create a mass movement for peace building and conflict resolution around the world. Sounds crazy, but their vision is to organize a couple of concerts. One will be in Hiroshima in 2020, and the 75th anniversary of the dropping of the atomic bomb. So I'd say think big, think crazy, think creatively. And again, congratulations to everybody for finishing your degrees. It's a huge accomplishment, and thank you very much.